So, hello everyone. Welcome to another indie author interview. I am joined today by Ashleigh Bello, who is the author of um, Belvedor in the Four Corners, A Mermaid's Kiss. And Belvedor in the Four Corners is a series, correct?
Yeah, it's a completed series with 5 books.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, let's jump in right to the question. So, tell me a little bit about your author journey and how you decided to go with the self-publishing route.
So I started self-publishing a decade ago. So I've been at it for about 10 years and I've really seen it evolved over that time. But initially I never entered like with a goal of being an author or being a writer. I was living at the time I wrote my first book, Belvedor in the Four Corners. I was living in South Korea. I was teaching English for a year, and there was just a period of time where like a transitional period in the summer where all my friends left and I didn't know anyone. I felt like very lonely, and I just opened my computer and I started writing. And Ariana Belvedor, the main character in this series, just she like hooked into my heart, the world. It was like eating at me to get on paper. Um, so it happened very organically for me. I probably wrote the first book in 3 months in a
Wow.
crazy time. Yeah, over the years I've honed it a lot. That book helped me become a writer, so I learned a lot. Like it didn't start off like the published version that you've read today, but um yeah, I guess my writing journey started with like a little bit of loneliness. I kind of wrote my own friends. So the
Mhm.
first series I wrote was really centered around found family, so that makes sense. Yeah.
And so, how did you get to the point where you're like, I'm going to self-publish rather than I'm going to query and do the trad route?
Well, yeah, so it's taken me back. At the time I didn't know what self-publishing was. Like I just wrote the book and I was like, okay, I have a book now. I'm gonna get it published. So I did what most people do, which was apply for publishers like the big five, and I got immediately rejected. And I actually ended up applying to a smaller publishing house. And I didn't like this is like for people to be aware of. I'm not sure if it's still a thing, but like um in the past, a lot of people, I think like me, who wanted to get their stories told, the next step they would do was open a publishing house, but it really wasn't super legitimate. So I
Mhm.
actually signed my rights away for Belvedor in the Four Corners to a not very legitimate, like a publishing house. Like the book actually never saw the light of day, and I was lucky because they ended up closing and they reverted my rights back to me.
Mhm.
And I learned that lesson, and I was just very lucky that I was able to get my rights back and that it just happened naturally. So all of that kind of led me to like, okay, I'm gonna just look into doing this myself. And at the time there was a lot of it was kind of not new, but there was a lot of kind of fresh success stories like Hugh Howey, like really, really successful self-published authors, and a lot of groups that you could join. And now it's just like blossomed so much, exploded. So I'm glad that I took that path and navigated it. It's been a challenge though. There's a lot to navigate in the self-publishing route if you go that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think everybody's journey is different, and I think that that's like the cool that's why I like hearing about this sort of thing. Like you said, you're like, I didn't like go out here to be a writer. Like I wrote, this, for myself, really.
Yeah.
I find that, I mean, just we can talk about Ariana later, but like I can definitely see the similarities between both of you. So I think that that's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I'm flattered.
so when you did write either of these books, or how has your process changed? Maybe is a good question. Like, how do you write? Do you plot? Do you pants? Do you plants? What do you do?
So I I even though I didn't set out to be an author with like a plan of how I was going to tackle a book, I kind of still tackle it in the same way. So I I get an idea. Like I don't really hunt for ideas. I just like they strike me and I'm like, okay, I'm in book writing mode. And when I get that idea, I'll just open a Word document. I'm very old school, like I'm in Word. That's where I write all my books. And I just bullet point outline like, okay, Ariana lives in the mountains. And then, 5 bullet points later, she's like queen of the world. So
Hmm.
I just kind of like bullet point what's going on in my head. And then I open up a Word document, I title it, that's my favorite part, and then I just start writing and it kind of naturally unfolds for me. I don't normally, not to say like stray from the outline, but it's just so broad, it's hard to stray from it. It's like point A to point B. Um, yeah, so everything else in the middle kind of just fills in organically. And it's fun because I'll be writing something like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was gonna happen. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so,
Hey.
what do you enjoy most about writing in fantasy? What kind of makes you go to that genre?
Um, I definitely, as a child, when I had the time to binge read, I all I read was fantasy books. Um, so I read a lot of urban fantasy, so it's interesting that I didn't write in that genre, but I also watch a lot of epic fantasy, like anything fantasy in terms of film or TV, I will watch it. So, I just really love magic systems like this. I just love the idea of magic, like a world that could be created or like painted better when magic is added to the picture. It's just like endless possibilities. So, I guess I would say the thing I love most about writing fantasy is being able to create any possibilities within the magic. Because as long as there's a system, you can do anything with it.
Very
So
true.
it's super fun to world build. Yeah.
Very true. And so what do you need in your writing space when you do sit down and write to stay focused? Like, is it like that you need a drink? Do you need like a candle that you burn? Like, what do
I
you
need
need?
my coffee, my Aladdin cup,
I was
like
gonna say,
my
I
go-to.
definitely appreciate the Disney right there.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely need my coffee. If it's night, like I do a lot of writing at night, I need my wine.
Hmm.
But without the drinks that I need around me, mostly like a quiet space. I really have to put my phone down. The TV has to be off, like no other screens. Sometimes I'll go as far as to turn off the Wi-Fi on my computer and just have the Word document and just kind of a clean space. Like maybe I'll light an incense or something, just to get myself in the zone.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
And what is your kryptonite as a writer? What gets in your way?
um, I would actually say it's kind of the same answer as the thing that's my favorite, which is world building. So
Hmm.
you read my books, so I mean, they're chunky.
They are. They
My
are.
my editor is like, girl. So, um, I just love world building. Like if you don't like detailed fantasy worlds, you won't like my stories. But that being said, I over the years have really tried hard to make the cuts, to because the point of the story is to give someone, even myself, an enjoyable read and not get super lost in all the details.
Mhm.
So, while I do stand by having the details and the colorfulness of the worlds that I'm creating, um that is something I've been like working harder on to make cuts when I feel like it's not really moving the story forward or it's not adding anything. So, but I inevitably, like, I'm sure this book was like way bigger before I actually published it. So,
And that is like a huge that's a
it's
huge
hard.
kryptonite for me. That's why for my first book, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna pivot a little bit and we're gonna go to like paranormal romance because then at least I could have that urban kind of, inclusion
Yeah.
because I it was very like it was intimidating to be like, oh my gosh, like I don't know, like I have lots of ideas, but I don't know if I have like enough to like world build like that. It's intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I said, I didn't have any of it planned. So I started Ariana in her very closed place. in the mountains where she began. And it was like at least how the story unfolds, the world unfolded with her journey. So it kind of the details came as she went on her quest to find freedom and magic. But it's not always like that. Some people really know exactly how their magic system is going to work before they start writing, and they have that all thought out beforehand.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
it's
So
hard.
it's hard, yeah. Fantasy worlds, you gotta have the detail.
Yeah. So I give you guys lots of credit. And so let's go into talking about your books. We can talk about either of them, whether it's the Belvedor, or it's Mermaid's Kiss. So let's start with the hardest question. If you had to describe either book in one sentence or less, what would that sentence be?
You know it's gonna be hard for me.
I know.
I thought about this. I was like, what am I even now? I'm like, gosh, I can't do it in one sentence. But I would pivot to A Mermaid's Kiss because that's my newest release. But I would say that it's about this, I would say it's about an immortal um mermaid vampire huntress who goes on the chase of her life after a human who might end up being her downfall. I think
Mm,
that was the sentence.
I love that. I love
It was
that.
maybe a run on if my
That's
editor
fine.
had
Run-ons are
some.
okay.
Okay.
And so, in looking, I mean, I think that both of these female main characters are very, very different.
Yeah,
So, who is your favorite character to write in any of your books? Doesn't have to be the main character, and why?
that is hard. It's hard to choose because I love Ariana Belvedor from my first series, but I if I had to choose now, I would say Eloise from my most recent one, the mermaid that I just mentioned. It's hard. It's like choosing between children. Oh my
It
gosh.
is.
Like, um, but it's just I'm at a different phase in my life than I was when I wrote the Belvedor saga. And what I love about Eloise is that she's like she's crazy, first of all, but she's unapologetic and she's like this representative of some parts of me now as an adult that I strive for.
Hmm.
Just taking what she wants, not apologizing for it, just putting herself out there. She's really strong main character, and I really enjoyed walking through the world with her, or swimming, I should say. She and she got excuse me, writing her helped me evolve as a writer because it is a more adult book and it helps me explore more adult themes and just areas of writing that I hadn't yet explored before writing A Mermaid's Kiss. So it was a fun writing journey with her.
I like that. I like that.
A little
And
dark though, a little spicy, a little
a
dark.
little bit. And so, on the other side, who is the most difficult character to write and why?
Ooh, the most difficult. Actually, Jasper. So her main love interest, I the Belvedere saga didn't have any romance in it. I didn't really write much romance. There, romance as a subplot, but it wasn't the focus. So
Hmm.
it was a really challenging book for me to write. I had a goal and then I had a major writing block. It was the first time I've ever really experienced a
Hmm.
writer's block. Um, with The Mermaid's Kiss, it was so stressful because I had given myself a publishing deadline. I was promoting it, and at one point, I didn't think I could get past that block. And it was largely due to just, which is like the huge plot of the story, which is the romance, because I very experienced writing romance, and I hadn't really written from this like deeply from a male point of view. So working with my editor, though, we did like a critique halfway through, and it was super helpful to get this secondary point of view and on the story, and that helped me move forward and like unleashed so many just it helped unleash the story in a way that I didn't realize it was even going to go at the
Hmm.
beginning. So Jasper in the end, I really loved writing him and getting into his head, but he challenged me at first. So
And I think that that just points to how amazing editors can be and critique partners is that they can have such a, it's such an impact. I mean, and even alpha readers. Like I know my alpha reader, I'm wearing her shirt
Mhm.
now. Like she was absolutely amazing. I mean, I even, played keep saying, "Hey, like this is the next thing I want to write." And she's just so helpful. It's so great to have somebody that but you
Yeah.
really need to trust them.
Yeah, I love my editor. Her name's Hannah McCall. She's in the UK. And I found her when I first started self-publishing, I joined, I'm still a member, but it's called the Alliance of Independent Authors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ali. I'm not it's run in the UK, so I think it's more popular there, but I've loved being a member. They had so many resources. So I found her through there. And you kind of have to bite the bullet when you're self-published. Like you have to pay. So that was the biggest hurdle. But once did and found such a partner in her, I was like, I don't know what I would be without my
Mm-hmm.
editor. She's just really helped my writing like breathe. And she's taught me a lot. And a lot of things I unlearn. And then she reteaches me and is like, didn't we go over this? That's not a word, Ashley. So it's fun.
And so what is your favorite scene or quote from either book?
Favorite scene or quote? Ooh. Um, well, with the mermaid's kiss on my mind, my favorite quote for sure is it's it's let the world burn, we will remain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I wrote it, it became the tagline. Like it you kind of get to it halfway through the story, and it just is the catalyst to the rest of the story that unfolds. Which, as you know, there's many surprises that come out of that roller coaster romance. But yeah, let the world burn, we will remain. It's the whole story in one little line.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And so when we write, sometimes we picture our main characters as certain people with certain features and things like that. So is there anybody who exists in the world today for actors, actresses, models that you think of when you think of your main characters?
So I don't picture my main characters as famous people. I never have. A lot of times I'll picture them as like my friends will not want to know this, but sometimes I'll picture them like people I know for real in my life. Um, but I never write characters based on actual people. They're like mixtures of, like imagination. But I picture a little bit more people around me or even myself in the main characters. But if I had to choose, which it's such a fun exercise, like if my book was ever a movie, something like that, A Mermaid's Kiss, Lupita Nyong'o would be dream for Eloise. She's just such an incredible, beautiful actress. That would be dream. And then I wrote his name down actually. Oh yeah. Jasper, her love interest, Louis Tom, who actually was part of the inspiration for how my illustrator created the main like the official character art. I think he's really hot.
Mm, cool, cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know that. I know Lupita Nyong'o, but I need to look at the other one. So I
Yeah,
definitely
he's in a lot of action movies.
Mm,
He's
cool,
cute.
cool. Let's go into the last part of the interview, and just some questions that I would want to know getting to know somebody. So other than writing and reading, what are some of your interests? I think I can guess some, but
Yeah. Well, we have one that's the same, but I am knee deep in the yoga world. So, I started my own yoga business with my best friend. I guess almost 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, and we do pop-up events around my community here in Brooklyn, and it's just really blossomed. It's been a really cool project, and we've got to make some like amazing partners, and Yeah, I'm obsessed with yoga. If I'm stressed, I'm either writing my feelings out or I'm on my mat working them out.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then what else? I love travel. I'm obsessed with traveling. Get me a plane ticket anywhere, I'll go.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I definitely get a lot of inspiration as a writer from places that I've been. So yeah, I can be very nomadic at times as much as I'm a homebody.
Relatable. Definitely relatable. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I need to put my Goodreads up for this question, which is my favorite question of the interview.
Uh-oh.
Some authors or books that you would recommend.
Um, so this woman I met, her name's Elle Penelope, and she wrote it's called Blood of Song of Blood and Stone. But I met her actually at a self-published author event like years and years ago, and she just like really inspired me. She was on an author panel, and I always remembered her. I follow her on Instagram, I bought her books, and I've just kind of been watching her journey, and she's still such a like anytime I need a little motivation, I go and I look for Elle Penelope on my Instagram and see what she's up to, and she's just really out there. She's a Black author, so go support her.
Mhm.
Um, I also have been being, a few readers have been recommending to me to read Immortal Dark. I'm not sure who the author's name is, but it's
Yes.
it's on TikTok. She's a Black author too, and it's about it's definitely about a Black vampire. So people have been sending her my way. Like I need to read this book. So I'm gonna check that out. And I think generally I especially as a person of color, trying to break into this world, we need more diverse books. So I just number one would recommend support your diverse authors, your Black authors and your indie authors.
Mhm.
I'm trying to do the same, like trying to get out of trends and like buy the books that maybe aren't like everyone's talking about. We all read Fourth Wing, so
Yeah.
like
And I think that that is great advice, for readers. But for writers, what is some advice that you give to an aspiring author or maybe a younger you?
younger me, just keep writing. Um, it it was when I first started writing Belvedor in the Four Corners, and I got scared of where it was going or if anyone would read it. I think one of the biggest hangups for new writers is that they immediately start thinking before they're even finished with the book, like who's going to read it? Who's going to publish it? They start submitting to agents and putting half a story out there and it gets rejected because they all do, and people get demotivated. So I would say just skip all of that and just write the book for yourself and just keep writing. Just keep writing, and over time, you will be that author that you want to be. It just is such a long game, and if you get stuck on the future of where you're trying to go, you won't make it because it's scary and it's challenging. So you should just write the story because that's what you're there for the fun of that experience and to write something that you're proud of, and then you focus on the next step. Oh,
Hmm, I love
yeah.
that. And I think that's one of the hardest things is getting it down.
Yeah, just get
Because
it out.
yeah, that's why I got myself a word processor. I write using a free write and it is a game changer because there's no internet, there's nothing on it, and you only see a couple lines of
Oh,
text,
that's interesting.
and you can't go back and edit. It's made for drafting.
Oh my God, maybe that's my kryptonite because I go back and edit.
That's what I was doing and I wasn't getting it out. And
Yeah,
like, oh, you just need to get it out. I'm like, but I can't because I could see
you
everything.
have to go back and yeah.
That's why I treated myself to that. I was like, you know what? Like you're gonna write your first book, like you need to do it. You need to get this. So I did. But I got it
Oh,
used, which honestly it was I was in the Facebook group and I got a really good deal. Like she gave me like like a case and like a light and all this stuff. It was
Oh
cool.
my gosh, that's amazing. Well, I'm so glad that you did because
Highly recommend.
everyone has a different experience and you have to find what works for you just so you can get your story out. And then you can edit and
Exactly.
change everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you
I
probably
have
are
seen,
too.
yeah, exactly. I know. I have seen friends. I have actually a close friend that this happened to. I felt like she didn't finish her story because she did exactly what I just said, which was she got excited and started to put it out into the world before it was finished. And it's just not that easy, as if it is, it's luck. Like you just have to work so hard. It's just a forever game if you want to be an author and get your book out there, but you have to write the book first.
Absolutely. So important.
Yeah.
And so are there, I know that you said that when you travel places, you get inspiration for some of your worlds. So what are some of those places that have given you inspiration?
Oh, yeah. So that the Belvedor saga was birthed from my nomadic life living abroad. I was in South Korea when I started writing it, so I definitely pulled inspiration from there. And what inspires me is nature. So I get really I just can, there's some places in our world with the most beautiful nature that to me it's magical. I mean, it's real life magic. And that's the pieces that I pulled into the story. So I one of them was in Zambia and it's Victoria Falls in Livingston. It's
Mhm.
beautiful waterfalls. And I wrote that those came into, I think it was my third book. Um, so some places in Africa, Mexico, I've traveled to many times and I've lived there. So yeah, I'm looking at a map right now. Like why am I, it's like right behind me, but um yeah, my exploration of Asia. Oh, and a mermaid's kiss. So I'm a diver. I'm a new diver. I started that in COVID. And so underwater world is a different story. It's magic. It is. It's magic down there. So a lot of a mermaid's kiss, I didn't even really need to add that much magic to the world building underwater because it's just so cool.
It is.
So a lot of it is real experiences and memories that I wrote down from what I saw.
That's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. And so do you listen to music while you write?
No, I write better. Sometimes I will put on maybe like piano music in the background or classical, and even then it's distracting. So I write best when it's just quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I kind of like want, it's like I want the distraction a little bit. I might set myself up with the music. In the end, I turn it off when I get focused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you write with music?
I do, but it's without words, and it's a playlist on Spotify, and it's called Fantasy Music for Writing. And it's
Send
just,
that to me,
it's,
please.
I will. It's just like, it's epic. It's very epic fantasy. Like it,
I love that.
and and I can't write at home. I just can't do it. So I don't know what it is. I think it's just being in a comfortable space. Like I have to go to a coffee shop. Um, and so usually, and to be honest, like I wrote my first book only on the weekends. I
At
went
coffee
on
shops.
Saturdays
Wow.
and
Yeah.
I got up early on Saturday and I went and wrote for 2 or 3 hours. And I have my AirPod Maxes. Like I needed those because I was like, the AirPods are great, but I need like the whole thing. So I just put that on and I put on my music and I just write. So but it's very interesting. I think I wrote it, I think it was like a month and a half, maybe like
Mhm.
5, 6 weeks. 5, 6 Saturdays that I was just like, this is what I'm gonna do, and that's what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
I think it's different for everybody too, but I definitely can't have words because it just throws me off because I'll type them because of the ADHD.
Yeah. I can't I have to have I I also like to get out of my house sometimes, but if I'm writing new chapters, I have to be at home and
Hmm.
alone and just like in this black hole of just me and my computer. But when I'm editing, that's a different story. I'll go, I'll go to like a coffee shop or the park or something, and I can focus more if it's like editing something I've already written. Otherwise, I couldn't do that. I would just be so distracted.
I like sit in the corner, like usually like my back is to the door and like I'm like very strategic with it, but it's hard. I think it's
Yeah.
very hard.
It's nice
Um,
though to get out of, your comfort zone and
yeah.
just be in a different place.
And so I know that you were just at New York Comic Con, right? So tell us a little bit how that went.
Oh my gosh. What a whirlwind. It was incredible. I have you ever been to New York Comic Con?
Yes, I have.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was
A lot.
you've been a lot?
It's a lot.
Oh,
There's a
yeah.
lot going on and there's so much.
I was so overstimulated. I have never, and I'm a very social, extroverted person. I was so overstimulated. I just wasn't expecting that level of just nonstop people, and but it was incredible experience, and the energy is just nonstop energy for like 10 hours straight for 4 days straight. But for me, it was actually I've been I've been an author and published books for 10 years, and I have never done a book signing event. I have never gone to an event. I don't know why. I just never did. I'm a marketer by trade, so I feel more comfortable kind of behind the computer on social media and my newsletter. That's sort of how I have been trying to get my stories out and spread the word. But I was like, oh my gosh, I've been missing out. The p people at Comic Con loved my table setup. They were really interested in my stories and so supportive. They just wanted to. I think the covers drew them in, and they were happy to support an indie author, and it was just so special. And I'm like, I can't believe that I have waited 10 years to do an event, and it was the best time of my life. But I was so tired. Couldn't, I had to have cough drops all the time. So yeah, it was really cool. I hope I can do it again.
Well, I know that, you are a member of the Fantasy Author Legion. And
Woo!
if nobody knows, the Fantasy Author Legion is a group created by myself and J.E. Harder. And we have recently expanded to the Midwest because we have an author who, was interested. And I was like, okay, like let's just do it. But we mainly started in the Northeast. And so we have a bunch of signing events. This is going to be going up, I believe, after we do a little bit of a teaser, so we can kind of tease the fact that we will be having a weekend book bash with the Fantasy Author Legion in the beginning of February. And I believe, Ashleigh, you may be going to that.
I definitely will be going to that. It's going to be in Philly,
Mhm.
and I actually haven't been to Philly in so long, so I'm super excited. It's my book signing era.
Yes.
So I'll definitely be there supporting the Author Legion, the Fantasy Author Legion. And yeah, it's a great group of authors. I think there's quite a few of us going. I don't know the exact number, but actually, one of the authors at Comic-Con that I was tabled next to is going to be there. So we're trying to go on the same day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we're
Tree.
gonna have oh, Tree, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna have 10 authors for the whole weekend.
Yeah,
There's gonna be 5 to 6 one day and 5 to 6 another day. So it's gonna be a really wonderful event. And tickets will be going on sale, I believe, the beginning of December. So I mean, you can make a whole weekend out of it. We're gonna have lots of different events and food is provided. It's gonna be really awesome. I'm gonna try to make it like I've been to New York Comic Con. I just went to Romantasy Book Con in Orlando.
I
Uh,
gotta get myself to that.
it was really, really great. So I definitely have some inspiration, from other book events. Bougie Bookstore is also had like a fantasy author night that was amazing. So I can draw a little bit from those, but we're gonna make it the best that we can make it. And I'm sure it's gonna be super fun. Just being surrounded by authors and other people who love books as much as you do.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can't wait. It's so wonderful to be like with your community of readers and authors. And I can't believe I waited so long to do events. So
Well, you know
I'm
what?
really looking forward to it.
There's no time like the present, and there's also no rest for the wicked. So we will keep going. And do you have any news about the next book that you may be putting out that you can announce?
Not at this time. So I know that my readers are itching, begging to hear news about the sequel for Mermaid's Kiss. I just published it in February of this year, and it was soul sucking. It was so hard to write, and it was so fun, but I really burnt out after that one. Because I pushed myself harder than I had before, but I do plan on writing a sequel for it. I just need to like re-energize. And like I said, once the story strikes, I cannot be stopped. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate your transparency and saying, you know what, like it's hard. It is hard to kind of put yourself, especially when you put yourself, like you said, on those deadlines.
Yeah.
So, like you take your time, we will be here, we will be waiting. But Ashley, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. It's been so wonderful.
Thank you, Tay. It's been awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.